Today in the crypto space, we see the market continuing to the upside. Bitcoin right around that $65,000, up approximately 1.5%, and Ethereum right around that $3,500 mark, also up approximately 1%. The rest of the crypto space doing pretty good here. We have these altcoins, some of them deep in the green: XRP, Man of the Match, ICP, Aptos, IMX, FET, many others. In today's video, I want to talk about the general market. I want to use Bitcoin as a leading indicator, but more importantly, I want to talk about one altcoin, one project that is looking pretty good, and the setup is pretty good too, and that project is called Delysium. So you know what? Let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunities. Whether we go up or down, bearish or bullish, it doesn't matter. All we want to do is stay one step ahead of the market so that we can capitalize on any of the volatility. And if you appreciate the strategy, subscribe to the channel, click the bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, including the live streams at 7:30 Eastern, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Guys, if you have any projects you want me to cover here on the channel, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. You can hit me up on the socials. The links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. All right, guys, let's begin. Let's see what's going on here with the general market. We can see that the market cap is still rising slightly at about $2.5 trillion. However, guys, what's concerning to me in the short term is that we're getting a bit of a slowdown with regards to volume. And without market participation, without that volume, it's hard to sustain the trajectory to the upside. Although it could keep on going up just a little more, I do see that the market might be gearing up for a short-term pullback, given the fact that it has been rallying up significantly in the last little while. So although I am bullish, I do expect a continuation. I do expect, lots of green in the market. We have to understand that the market works with, peaks and valleys. Basically, we get those ebb and flows in the market, and they happen on different time frames. And if you look at the 4-hour and the daily, even particularly even the 4-hour, it's definitely overbought. It definitely is due for a bit of relief to the downside, unfortunately. And getting into a fresh long right now is quite dangerous, particularly on the projects that have already ran up significantly. So be careful, because risk to reward ratio is so important. As you see projects run up in this green price action, it becomes riskier to get into entries. So look for those bottom dwellers, look for those lower prices, and look for those horizontal support levels where we can get in with some confidence and ultimately with a good risk to reward ratio. Obviously, risk management is key right now, guys, because you don't want to be buying tops, particularly if you're looking to deploy into a project and going all in all at once. Just be careful there. I do see a lot of good continuation, but again, short term, guys, short term time frames, be prepared to buy the dips. Bitcoin showing a lot of strength, but in the tail end of this, are we getting divergence? That's the big question. We do see a double topish. We do see a slightly higher high. Do we come down for a bit of a dip here on Bitcoin, even though it has been looking very strong? Ethereum, the same thing. I think Ethereum has a lot more to prove. I think Ethereum has a lot more catch up to play here in comparison to Bitcoin. I do see that the ETF could be a very strong catalyst, even though, as the time gets closer, it could be a buy the rumor, sell the news, which right now it's not really even a rumor. It's more or less waiting for the news to actually come out, and then I'm wondering if there's going to be a bit of a sell-off. The reality is, guys, Ethereum has a lot more upside potential, even in comparison to Bitcoin. Sorry. If we keep on going down, we do see that BNB is also very topish, right? It does look a little bit top heavy. Solana doing its thing, grinding to the upside, up almost 3%, 2.5% to be exact. Now, again, are we getting signs of divergence here? We got to be very careful, because as the price action is slowing down, it isn't an ideal time to expect some sort of structure to be built. And if the structure being built gives us signs of, weakness with divergence and so on, yes, it might be a smart idea to trail up some stop losses underneath that structure. So for now, for example, if we would use BNB, you can see we made that one little low. If you trail up your stop loss, a little bit below that low, that way, if we do come down, it's not a big deal. You do have that safety net to stop yourself out, let the price fall maybe to the next level of horizontal support and reaccumulate. And that's the way you trade the short-term time frames, guys. The 4-hour time frame for me is what I like to trade in and out of the market with, and the daily, obviously, keeping in longer term positions for continuation to the upside. We do have a lot of strength here in XRP. Congrats to all the XRP holders. However, guys, we are now at a level where we've gotten rejected many times. So we got to be careful here, because as we approach those zones, it becomes a level of a breakout. We look for breakout moves right now. And it requires a lot of conviction, a lot of strength, a lot of volume and momentum to actually break out of previous highs. And XRP right now, from a trading perspective, has done an excellent job reclaiming those previous high zones. So ultimately, risk to reward ratio is not very healthy. And if you're looking for fresh entries, again, you got to consider yourself a breakout trader. Right now, it's up 40% for the last 7 days. That's a good gainer, guys. So just keep in mind, right now, maybe a lot of profit taking could be happening. What else do we have here? A lot of the altcoins are grinding still to the upside. A lot of them are showing a lot of strength. Polkadot finally waking up just a little bit here. But if we keep on scrolling, guys, you can see that the market is doing great. And when things get too good to be true, this is where I'm ready to deploy capital. Okay, so I'm waiting for a short-term correction across the market, and then I'll get in. Now, we don't have to have one. Let's be clear about this, right? I'm hoping that we do get one, and I know a lot of us are waiting for that. And just keep in mind, I did deploy a lot of capital into a lot of these altcoins about a week and a half ago. Now, all of a sudden, we are waking up, which is great for those entries. Now, all of a sudden, I'm wanting to buy a bit more on a confirmation low, a higher low. If we do get the higher low, this is, based on if we do get it, I'll be deploying. And if we don't, all good. We do have, great positions already entered. We've been covering a lot of good projects in the last little while. And there's always opportunities in this crypto space to deploy capital, especially new projects coming out, any random dips that do happen, any FUD we can take full advantage of. Having capital on the side, having some dry powder is always a great idea regardless. All right, so let's keep on going down in this market. You can see that we do have a lot of good green, guys. Even Render finally waking up a little bit, maybe trying to break above the previous highs. As we see the grind to the upside, it shows a lot of good potential. And I'm wondering what's going to be happening with those micro caps, even the meme coins and all of that. So this is the time to be full aware that the price action is in your favor for a bullish move. Confirmations, possible. Deploy capital upon confirmations, better risk to reward ratio in that scenario. Look at WLD looking very good, 40% to the upside. Another congratulations to those individuals. WLD is running, guys. Great move there. And that's about it. That's the top 100. We do see a lot of green. I would say between 5 to 10% on average throughout the market. There are some randoms that are doing much better. But guys, this is the name of the game here. We go sideways until we get that impulsive move and start moving to the upside. All right, guys, I know you're here to talk about charts, so let's begin our analysis talking about Bitcoin before we talk about AGI Delysium. Bitcoin, at the end of the day, guys, is showing a lot of strength for the market. It's showing a lot of good opportunity. However, guys, again, with the short-term dips, is it possible? Do we get a bit of a correction to get a bit of a dip opportunity here on a change of character? That would be totally awesome, because we know that ultimately a higher low after this rally up would give us all the confirmations necessary to go all in and go very bullish. Let's look at this in a little bit more detail. What I really do like about this price action at the current moment is that we made a higher high. We broke above this previous high. We're beginning to change the character. We got a higher high. Let's come down and get the higher low. Now, I have this in from last night. Now, this is a very bearish scenario, right? Who knows if this would happen, right? That means that this higher high was just a trap. That means that it was a bull trap. We trapped some bulls up and we come down for a lower low. Now, is that possible? Of course, probability wise, it's possible, and we need to prepare for it. However, I think there's a lot of work to be done. I think before we get into this scenario, we need to consider the fact that there's horizontal supports, there's moving averages, there's a lot of suggestion that we need to get support around this area, which would confirm a lot more of a bullish stance, of a bullish thesis than this bearish thesis, because really we made a higher high, guys. On this local high, we broke character. Now that's really good. Now coming down to here, probability-wise is still there. Keep that in mind, guys. 52K is possible, even 44K is possible. Having dry powder is always a great idea for those events. But guess what, guys? Let's talk about the bullish scenario here, because ultimately there's a lot more work to be done to get to that zone. And the bulls right now, all they need is a little bit of a pullback, even right around here, to be honest, or even here, to be honest, or even down to this level. Why? Because we have the 200 daily that's slowly trekking to the upside, slowly flatlining, doing this thing. So we can come around this area and this area or this area, right? And I know there's, and generally speaking, we're talking about a zone, right? A zone of a pullback. We want to see the 4-hour get exhausted and get oversold, and to see this come down a little bit. Now, is it going to happen? No guarantees, guys. None whatsoever. To the point that we can continue moving to the upside upon this V recovery, straight to the upside, straight to 72, and straight up to 100K, 120K. Who knows, right? That's also very possible. Possibility is always key here, guys. Always be prepared for all the case scenarios. However, what's more possible, what's more probable is that we form structure, okay, like we've done in the past, and then we've done many times, forming double tops, double bottoms, inverse head and shoulders, cups and handles, Adam and Eve patterns, W formations, V recoveries. They do happen, but we do get pullbacks. We do get opportunities where we can get in, maybe not as low as down here. Luckily, we were able to scale into some altcoins around this level, which was good. Now we do come down. Where do we get support? Let the momentum, let the price action come to us. Let the setup come to us. And I'm going to be I put a yellow box in here just to keep us in mind. And we are watching, we are paying attention. Now, we did get a bit of a wick here, a rejection, which is, not a good look. It's not really a blow off top because it's not that large, the wick, but it's definitely a bearish scenario, right? Especially if you close a daily candle like this, obviously tonight, 7:30 Eastern, I'll be live again. So feel free to join. We'll talk about Bitcoin. We'll talk about all the setups, all the price action on all the altcoins that you may have. It's a great time and place to make those requests. But ultimately, the way things are looking right now, if we zoom in, this doesn't look great, right? It doesn't look the greatest. I wouldn't be, getting into a fresh long at this current moment. I would be waiting for that short-term pullback based on the 4-hour. Now, let's look at that. Now, I'm curious as to see if there's divergence into these tops. Let's take a look at the oscillators. Let's make the momentum bigger. Actually, what we can do is hide the trend, and we'll make this just a bit bigger. And you can see, let's make that bigger. Let's bring this down, and you can see that we're making higher highs on the price action. Higher highs on the price action right here. Let's make this a bit thinner, right? And you can see higher highs on the price action, and the trend of the momentum is making lower highs. And we see the volatility pushing down. We see the expansion that happened from here all the way up here, and getting divergence as well right into these two tops of the expansion wave right in the background. So that's divergent as well. Now, who's to say that we don't get back up and stay overbought? Or do we continue a trend where we see the overall expansion that began here, and then come straight back down, and then ultimately see this thing come down for that dip? And we can see the momentum, the purple line also come down for that dip, and then we start coming down, and it may be hitting some of these levels down here where we can start deploying more capital with a bit of a confirmation. Now, just understand that confirmation lows, higher lows, are super bullish. And if you go back into the price action, you will see why, because ultimately we changed character, right? If we go back to here, you can see we changed character. We made a higher high in comparison to this high, which is super great. But what about, again, if we come down to make a higher low, right? Higher low, bulls will get bullish, bulls will get interested. Let me reposition this. And then as they get interested and they feel more confident because of all the confluence, they get into a bigger position size, and then we go up for a higher high. Now, all of a sudden, we're making higher highs and higher lows, and we're moving upwards. And instead of making lower lows and lower highs, the trend is your friend, and we start breaking and we start moving to the upside. Guys, this is how pivots are made. This is how continuation patterns are made. This is a lot of great TA at the current moment. So I would be happy to see a dip on the shorter term time frames if we get one, and if we don't, guys, all good. What could we do? We just do our best and try to hunt for risk to reward ratio opportunities in the altcoins, because a lot of those altcoins are reaching bear market bottoms, desperately looking for horizontal support. Let's take a look at AGI, guys. Let's see what's going on with this. You can see this project AGI Delysium is doing pretty good. Now I'm going to stick with the daily because the daily structure is quite interesting. You can see the clarity. I like the clarity in this chart, and this is one of the reasons why I chose to make a video on Delysium today, is because really the structure, you can see that we got one major impulsive move, a corrective move, and another major impulsive move. So it's a three-wave structure to the downside. And when you get such structures, right, it gives us an indication that maybe the bears are done. Maybe the impulsiveness to the downside is over. Okay, so this is why I kind of like it, because we also have some confluence with horizontal support levels, right? This is identified by this yellow line and the volume gap that I put into here, basically showing a bit of weakness below. You can see that we got weakness, no volume right into this level, very, very little volume. However, we pick up a significant amount of volume down here, which is the level of which we're definitely going to start to hunt liquidity if we do get down there, right? People are holding, people bought, people accumulated into this level. Look at all the volume right into this level. Means people accumulated, rallied up, and either took profit. Maybe they took profit. This was a great profit-taking opportunity. Red arrows are a great profit-taking opportunity. And then coming down to the downside, we got a bit of volume right into here, which a little bit of a sell-off or a bit by the dip scenario. But after that, you can see that there wasn't that much of a sell-off. The volume into the dip wasn't that crazy, which means that maybe we're done this dip. Maybe it's over. And I do see that we are respecting the horizontal and the volume gap pretty well. Like if you look at what's happening here, the structure that it's being built is quite bullish. All right, so let's take a look at the structure here for a second, and let's get rid of this wave to the downside. You can see that ultimately this looks like a Adam and Eve pattern. Okay, it's an Adam and Eve patterns, our pivot point patterns, are patterns of which we can put a bit of confidence in that we might get a reversal here, and especially with divergence and things like that. V recovery, let me spread this out a little bit. Right, we got a V recovery right into this level. Boom. Well, that was messy. Let's see, V recovery, rounded bottom. Okay, rounded bottom, which means that ultimately this is an Adam and Eve pattern with the high right in here, with the neckline right here, with the line of which it needs to break above. So what we're looking for is a break above this level right here, which is at about 23.9 cents. We break above, guys. It's starting to look like a great pivot point structure at this level. And at this level, I understand that individuals might zone in on their stop losses, which would be right at this zone. Guys, you could put it a little bit higher, but you run the risk of getting wicked out again, like we've got a wick before. Just integrate the majority of the price action as you can. Now, obviously, if you got into this green arrow, congrats, you're in the green. And congrats, because ultimately your entry is pretty good. If we do get this breakout, you're at a zone of which basically we can start moving to the upside really quickly, hitting about 32 for the next level of resistance, and then obviously flying through this volume gap that we left a lot of weakness and hitting about 50 cents, which is super, super bullish. So this is looking pretty good. Let's take a look at the momentum. Momentum in the chop zone here on the daily. We're trekking to the upside, getting overbought. Guys, that's where we want to go. Look at the expansion waves in the background. We got this expansion wave, nice, huge expansion, and then we got another big expansion. And if you look at the price action, it's kind of double bottoming, right? Two double bottoms, while this expansion is a lot smaller than this expansion, which means that we're diverging, right? We're getting a class B bullish divergence. Great stuff there. Now, if you look at the volatility, which is the purple line, the one right here, you can see the purple line at the current moment. We got this bottom, and if you look at that bottom, and then we look at this bottom, we got a higher low. The price action is going sideways, but the momentum is making a higher low. That's class A bullish divergence. Good stuff there, right? At horizontal support. So we're getting at horizontal support, meaning that we're trying to stay above the 200 EMA. We're trying to get back above it. Horizontal support because we're above the volume gap at the horizontal of the volume gap. Okay, so the top of the volume gap is a great support level as well. And also consider the fact we have the bottom of the volume gap that we have to, kind of address, and keep in mind that we can fall through that volume gap, and falling through the volume gap will take us a little lower. And if you look at the volume gap there, we have a space below the price action that can take us down to this level if we break below. That's a bearish scenario, but right now with this horizontal support, I can definitely see a setup happening where we put a stop loss here and anticipate that these divergences will get followed through and that will hold the horizontal support, that the bullish Adam and Eve pattern does break the tops and start moving to the upside. We have a lot of confluence here, and as you build confluence, you build confidence in the setup, and that's where your position sizes could increase with that stop loss, because then you have a plan to mitigate risk. You get what I mean here, guys? It's so important to really get into those risk management scenarios. And now let's look at the expansions. Look at the expansion waves, guys. We made a double bottom as well, more or less, slightly higher low, of course, so that's fine, but it's very slight. But look at the majority, look at this thing, how it's diverging significantly. It's not like it's just a little bit of a slope. It's a big slope, and we got an EMA cross to the upside. We got a histogram bar right here looking pretty good, green histogram bar. So I kind of like this. We are at a critical level to see some really good price action to the upside. Whether you include the wicks or you don't, we're looking for divergences. It's exactly best not to look for the wicks or to use the wicks. So it's slightly a higher low, but it does look pretty good as far as look at the difference. The divergence is so much more stronger than this little slope to the upside. So I like to see the strength. I like seeing the strength, and I like to see the support. So let's look at the price action once again, because the setup is real. The Adam and Eve patterns at horizontal support is really good, because ultimately, if we start to break this high, we change character. In fact, we already started to begin to change character by making a higher low. We finally made our first higher low right here. We were making lower lows and lower highs all the way down here, all the way to this level. All of a sudden, we're making a higher low. What about if we make a higher high above here? That would be that breakout, right? Make a higher high. And all of a sudden, we go for higher highs and higher lows and higher highs and higher lows, and we start moving to the upside. Guys, great stuff there. Obviously, that is what we're looking for in a pivot point. And these levels right here, it's not a bad time to expect a pivot point. So let's zoom out here and do our setup. Let's see what it could look like if we were going to go long. Just keep in mind the bearish scenario is that we fall through the volume gap and reach this level and hunt liquidity, and coming down to about 6 cents, 7 cents would be super bearish. But obviously, if you're a bull into this market in Delysium, that would be a fire sale opportunity. Now, if we do the setup and we look at a bullish setup, and we start to say, okay, if we enter right here, we put our stop loss right around here, right? And we take profit right around here. Not a good setup, not a good risk to reward ratio. It's a 50-50 coin toss, more or less. It's almost a 2-to-1. It's a 1.66 to 1 ratio. It's not the best. It's not the worst. It's something that I wouldn't take. I like 3-to-1s personally, which means that I have to be ready for the breakout. The breakout is where I'm going to get my 3-to-1. And if you go to this level where we break out of this high and we start testing other levels of resistance, we're talking about a great ratio, 4.5 to 1. We're looking at 130% to the upside with a 30% loss, obviously. Now, this 30% loss is more important to watch. Why? Because you don't want to lose more than 2% of your trading portfolio, which means this 30% loss needs to represent only 2% of your trading portfolio. That way you have enough capital reserved to play again once you find another setup in Delysium or even in another project, because it's still very possible that we break this horizontal level at the bottom and come down for that lower low. We just have to understand that the setup right now is giving us a lot of probability for continuation to the upside. We want to take advantage of that setup in that in that confluence that we got, but you cannot be certain. You always have to have a bit of a safety net to protect your initial investment. And right now that stop loss is critical. Now, if we start moving in, zooming in just a little bit, I would love to improve the thesis of taking profit right around this level. Like we said before, if we take profit there and that's our target, the risk to reward ratio is not good. And can we improve it? Can we somehow improve our entry? Now, if you remember what I said about Bitcoin, if Bitcoin and the market gets a short-term pullback based on getting resistance, maybe here on the 200 daily, getting a bit of resistance, the 4-hour getting overbought. If we go on the 4-hour quick, we can probably see, the oscillators being overbought and maybe getting a slight sign of divergence or, some sort of bearishness, just a little bit. We're not talking about a huge dump. We're getting a bit of divergence. We're overbought and overextended. It could be that we do get one. Just keep in mind that if we do get one, you want to have that capital reserved. And in that case, we can be buying the dips and improving our risk to reward ratio. And that's also given the fact that Bitcoin could be looking for that pullback and dragging the altcoin market down with it. So what are we going to do here? We're going to say, hypothetically speaking, if we can get in right around this level, we improve. We're at a 2.25 to 1 ratio, much, much better. And if we can buy a little bit more down here in this volume gap, basically I want to play this volume gap. If you look at the volume gap right here, I want to buy the top of the volume gap and I want to buy the bottom of this volume gap. This volume gap is a very emotional level in the local price action, and I would like to be buying here and here to drag my average cost down a little bit lower so that I can improve my risk to reward ratio. And at this level, when we get back to the top of the range where we get close to previous highs, guess what, guys? Now we're up 71%, where the ratio is almost 4 to 1. More or less 3.5 to 1, even a 3 to 1 ratio is healthy. And then all of a sudden our losses are only 18%. That is a lot healthier. And then if you fast forward again and we ultimately look for that breakout where we fly right through the volume gap, we can start looking at, extending this trade for a nice swing trade, trailing up the stop loss right underneath this level, taking 10% in profit, and then letting the rest run to this higher price target where you're up way over 100%, where you have decisions now. Do you take half on the double? Do you, trail up stop losses even further? Do you take another 10% and so on and so forth? Always de-risk as the price moves higher, because as the price moves higher, the chances of a pullback increase. Guys, if I've offered you any value in this video, do the channel a massive favor. Slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you have any projects you want me to cover here on the channel, feel free to join me live tonight at 7:30 Eastern, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip.